journey, feelings of hopelessness, loneliness, she'll fix them all away. Able, wistful, and she always keeps her promises. Every ending has a new beginning. Unexpected things will happen. There'll always be silver lining. Time heals all sorrows. Get all that no worries. 'Cause nothing is more precious than love. Noble, faithful, she's as pure as the driven snow. Oh dear, how so sweet.
Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to... Oh, what is that? A letter for me? Oh, wow! I wonder who that could be from. Let me open it up real quick. To Watch Club from Violet Evergarden. It's a letter. Oh, it's just my introduction. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Do You Say Anime? I am your host, Peter. And on today's episode of Watch Club, we are watching the 2018 episode, or the show of Violet Evergarden. Joining me today, first from Watch Club, Kat. Kat, how's it going?
We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from. Fuck you for that fucking pun.
God.
I love it.
All right, I'm glad we remembered the 2-minute rule of not swearing. Joining us today as well is Happy. Happy, how's it going?
Man, I forgot my opening bit. Hold on, give me a sec.
All right, joining us today as well is Johnny. Johnny, how's it going?
It's honestly
Great.
pretty on brand, Happy. Sorry, Johnny, go.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was going great until you started with that bit, because like he didn't tell us he was gonna do that, so yeah, we're all just as surprised.
All right, and Happy, you got your intro ready?
I remember now. Yeah. So what I was gonna say was, this show made me sad, but Nambaka made me sadder.
Wow.
Fuck you.
There we go, strike
that,
two.
that came out.
No, that one. No, that's
Okay.
a fair one. That was
All
a fair
right,
reaction.
and our first modder for
God.
tonight is Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going wonderful. In 2006, the eclectic band Cute Is What We Aim For wrote in their song Curse of Curves, I want someone who's provocative and talkative, but it's so hard when you're shallow as a shower.
Wow.
And who knew they were speaking of the 2018 anime, Violet Evergarden.
Okay, you know what? And I got the gift of one-liners, and Miles, you have the Curse of Curves. And
Why,
joining
thank
us,
you.
and our second moderator is Pat. Pat, how's it going?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite shows of all time. So yeah, if we're all good to go, I think we can just start with our usual introductions. It's spoiler free, our first impressions, how we heard about this show, what we expected going in, what we thought about the first few episodes, anything else you think is worth mentioning. We're just gonna go straight down the list. So we'll start with Miles. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had seen this on like Netflix scrolling through. What I knew about it going in was that you liked it a lot. That is like a sort of like a melodramatic type of show. That it's very gorgeous animation, atmospheric music, just sort of the whole atmospheric package put together. And through the first 4 episodes, I would say that the show absolutely delivered on that. And that, it's pretty much as advertised, I would say, early on.
Okay, fair enough. So, and would you recommend this show?
Yeah, I'd recommend. I think so. It's definitely worth watching. Watch it. Watch all the shows we watch. They're all worth it.
All right, there you go. Yeah, well, almost all of them. And speaking of almost all of them, Kat. I'm sorry,
You're
buddy.
gonna drop that home. You're gonna drop that. No, Mark.
Kat, I'm sorry. Go ahead and give us your first
No,
impression.
you're not. I know that.
No, I am sorry, but
So,
the thing is,
my-
we're gonna have a new butt of the joke next week, I think. So don't worry. Just go ahead. Don't worry. This is the last week, hopefully,
anyway,
of these jokes.
so my first, so I really had heard of Violet Evergarden from you guys and from some other podcasts, but I never really watched it because I didn't feel like it. And then, like, I figured, I guess it's finally time to see what the hype is about. So I sat down and watched it. And honestly, I really, really enjoyed it. Uh, I think I cried like 8 times during the show, and it takes a lot. Like, it takes really, really good story and like character growth for me to cry during a show. So the fact that I did means that it was a damn good show, and I would definitely recommend it. Just not as like a starter, like melodramatic show, because a lot of other melodramas won't be able to touch how good this show is in the anime medium.
That's fair. I think, yeah. So don't start with this because it'll ruin everything else for you. I like that take. I like that a lot. Happy. What about you? What have you got for first impressions?
So I'd heard of this show here and there through other podcasts, but all I really knew about it was about that it was about like a girl who wrote letters, and I thought she was a robot at first, but apparently not. Sorry, spoilers. But
That's not a spoiler. Don't worry.
so okay, thank you. So I watched it over like 3 days, and what I would say is, if you liked Princess Principal but didn't really like the action part of it, watch this anime. Or in fact, just go watch it because it's fantastic.
Yeah, there we go. Happy liked the show. Let's go. That's progress. If Happy liked the show, then most people would probably like the show. Johnny, what about you? What have you got?
All right. So I heard about this show quite a few years ago. It was like, but like I heard it was like one of those like sad shows, you know, the ones that make you cry like a little bitch. So yeah, so part of the reason why I didn't watch it when I first heard about it was at that time I watched a lot of other sad shows. I was like, okay, I need a break from this. I'm gonna go insane. So I waited like about a year afterwards. I saw it on Netflix. I was like, oh yeah, I got the show I needed to watch. I should probably go and watch it. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. Honestly, it was. The animation is probably the best animation I've ever seen in an anime, not counting movies. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend the show, unless you don't like crying.
I don't think any of us particularly like crying, but you know, if you don't like the emotional response that this show might cause you to have, I think maybe that's it. That's
Yeah,
a good
like
way to put it.
if you don't have emotions, then well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Pete, what about you? What have you got?
Yeah, so first impressions, especially the first 2 episodes, nothing really happened, and I loved every second of it. Where we started to get like a background, a little bit of Violet, what the story is going to be about, like what the journey I think is going to happen, and I'm really glad that I jumped on this train because I've been avoiding this show for a long time because I just heard it's sad. I avoid sad shows. I know it's like stunning visually and all this stuff, but there's so many elements to this show that I loved, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody. I do think you need to be in like a good mindset. I think if you are like an emotional person, I think if you're in a bad mindset, I think the show could hit really hard for you. I think there's some elements to the show that hits hard for certain people, especially me in one specific episode. So if you're in like a good spot, I think this is a great show to watch. Kind of like what Kat said as well. I don't think this is a starter anime for like melodrama and that type of stuff, but man, this show was incredible, and I'm glad we watched it.
I can agree. And for me, I remember I just found it one night when I was sitting there, just looking for an anime to watch, and I said, "Oh, this looks pretty. I'll try it out." Started watching it, I think at like 10:30 or so at night, and then suddenly it was like 4:45 in the morning, and I was finishing episode 13, and I was bawling my eyes out. And I love melodrama. I love historical fiction, which this is similar. It's not exactly historical fiction, but I think it's meant to resemble Europe in World War One, and I think that that's a really fascinating time period. And I think they captured that that environment or that that time period extremely well in this show. I felt immediately attached to all the characters, and yeah, this is we'll talk more about it throughout the episode, but this is like probably one of the most stunning shows I've ever seen in my life. Like there's just nothing, there's almost nothing that compares to it. Even movies struggle to compare to Violet in terms of animation, and in my opinion at least. So yeah, I guess we can get right into this. First off, spoilers going forward for the show. It's not a super spoiler heavy show, I don't think personally. Like, I mean, I don't think that there's that many surprising endings to story arcs, if that makes sense. It's more just
There
knowing what
certainly
the
are not.
stories.
No.
No. Okay, thanks, Miles. That was
Anytime.
yeah. Um, but like, it's still a show that I I cannot insist enough that you experience for yourself on your own for the first time, because uh it's just it's cathartic almost. Like I really I adore it. But yeah, so I guess the first thing we can discuss is Violet's character and her overall arc as a character throughout the various letters or people that she interacts with throughout that again the season of the anime that we watch. So does anyone want to start us off there?
I think Bile should start.
Really? Okay. So, spoiler alert, I'm the one person who I'm just gonna come out and say it. I hate Violet, not the show. Violet herself. I think she's a trash character. I think that I I don't feel bad for her. I don't empathize with her. Um, I think her arc is dumb. I think she's dumb. And I think the show would be better if it was called anything but Violet Evergarden and just focused on all the actual good characters. Um, I didn't want to start us off because like I don't know, I don't like Violet, but so Violet is this girl. She comes from somewhere, and for some reason, she is a ninja, soldier, murder, assassin, feral child. She is picked up on a boat where she proceeds to murder most of the crew, and then eventually she is put under the care of a major. This major is a kind man, and despite her being a murder child, tries to raise her correctly and teach her to read and give her a purpose in life. Violet, because of some reason that is literally never made apparent, only likes following orders and doesn't really have her own initiative and stuff, and sort of relies on the major in a unhealthy way, but a necessary way for where she is in her life. And improving upon that is sort of the point of the anime, or at least Violet's part of it. They go to war. The major dies in the final battle. To sort of like end the war for the most part. There's some ongoing skirmishes that happen later in the series, but mostly like their brigade or whatever.
It's like the Battle of Berlin. Almost.
Yeah, takes like a important cathedral that's on top of a hill, and that basically wins them the war. He dies in that. He saves her, or he allegedly dies in it. He saves her life. She then sort of starts her life as a civilian, which is hard for her because she only likes following orders, and civilians don't get ordered around a lot. She becomes an auto memories doll. This is someone who like writes letters for people to like help convey their emotions for people who can't write themselves. So if you wanted to, say like write a love letter to someone, but you can't write down your feelings, you would hire.
Can't.
Yeah, because you literally can't write, or because you're not good at expressing yourself as another. Right. Like people who write can use them too. There's actually a wide variety of uses for them, which I thought was interesting. But we can get to that in the world building section. Violet, through a series of interactions with people who she writes letters for in this position, I don't know, learns the power of emotions and sort of fixes herself or something. But then also they go back to war again for a little bit. I really know.
I'm willing to go. So that's the Miles' take on Violet. And I think I'll speak for most of the people in the show when I talk about her in a more positive light now. So my interpretation of the same content that Miles watched, by the way, we did watch the same show, is that Violet is essentially a child who who was feral essentially. It was like a stray dog wandering the streets, or in this case a boat. um by the end of it or whatever, she comes from like a faraway land that is just different. She's just built different, and she's capable of superhuman uh abilities in terms of like fighting and killing, and she's this emotionless person, this the blob of clay that doesn't understand what emotions are. And she still doesn't, even at the end of her time with the general. But in the cathedral, when he saves her life, he tells her that he loves her, and she doesn't know what love is. uh she wants to know what love is. Sorry, bad joke. But she essentially goes through this story to try to understand and figure out what the general's words meant. And her way of learning is through her new job, which is an auto memory doll. Given to she was literally given because she is an orphan. She has no possession or family ties at all. She's given to the family of the major, who then she then ends up just working with his cousin, or his cousin brother. Can't remember off the top of my head. Um, and he runs this auto memory doll business where, like Miles put it, they essentially transcribe letters for people. And
It's his
uh,
CO.
it's a C.
It's his
Sorry.
CO. It's his commanding officer.
Oh, it's his commanding officer. There you go. Okay. Um, so yeah, that was the only relations that they had. So yeah, that's why they're given to him and her family, and they were just gonna have her live, but she wants to do something. She wants to follow orders. So then, the CEO then orders her to become an auto memory doll, and it's all about her. The entire story is essentially her trying to learn what emotions are, so that she can understand. So she can gain empathy, and she can understand what her general or her major meant when he said that she loves her. So that again, that's my interpretation of it. Maybe a little bit more positive. I don't know. Does anyone else?
I want to bake it off of Miles, because what I agree with what Miles is saying for a decent amount of it, but there's gonna be a really weird comparison of how I'm going to compare Violet Evergarden to the show Hunter x Hunter, where
Let's go.
where Gon is the main character of Hunter x Hunter. Is he the best character in the show? Absolutely not. Does it take away from the show? No, it doesn't. And I felt like Violet Evergarden does the same thing. Violet has the character. She does have character progression. She does have character development. There's a lot of things that are good about Violet, but I do think what Miles is saying as well, a lot of the like unknown questions and like what's the reason for this behind her character are completely valid. I think Violet is like a BC character. Like, she's fine, but I thought the part of the story of Violet Evergarden, I think some people will resonate that it is about Violet. To me, it was more of the messages that the literal messages send to people, but also just like the outcomes that people have during their exchanges with Violet. And I felt like that was more important. But I do see the complete valid criticisms that Miles gave. I 100% agree with.
Well, that's basically what I said in like a less doom and gloom kind of light, right? Like, I mean, I said the show would be better without her, meaning that I think that the supporting cast is just much stronger.
I just didn't think she needed to be this ninja war machine. Like, she could have just been like a child soldier. She could have been like just a person in the war. She didn't have to be like, making her the killing machine doesn't make the show any better.
I didn't find her relatable because of that. Like I understand that she's progressing and she makes character progression and stuff, but the place that she's coming from is such a foreign, unrealistic, inhuman place compared to where all the other people in the show who make character progression comes from. Yeah. So like, and I know that Pat had a different opinion on this, so he can highlight it because he thinks that it like highlights like how special she is or something. If you want to talk about that.
Well, so basically, so Miles and I wanted to understand what Miles's criticism for the show was, so that way we, rather than spending like 20 minutes here talking about it and then still not understanding what our points were, like Miles and I talked about it a lot earlier today. And so I think where he and I disagree is, I think that her being this almost supernatural level of a soldier makes it more of an interest. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't say like more of an interesting story or a compelling person to follow, but it makes her the main character, because otherwise she would just be some other random child soldier, which is not, that's not like it's not an interesting story. But and I use this analogy when I was talking with Miles. It's like you follow Dexter because he's Dexter, not because he's just some cop that is also really good at hunting serial killers. You follow Walter White not because Walter White is just some other random meth head that cooks meth. It's because of all the fantastical abilities he had, and like almost, and because it is fictional. It is a fictional story, and it allows for that kind of a character to exist. That's where, and that's, I can understand why you wouldn't like it and why it might limit your ability to relate to a character as much as, like, let's say, a normal person. But I don't think that that's necessarily a detriment to the show. It's just more of a choice that they make to make her this um like obviously it's pretty absurd, some of the situations she survives. The fact that she survives what the major dies in is absurd, right? Like the things that she goes through are very
Yeah.
absurd, but that doesn't, for what, well, for one, that's not the point of what they're going through, right? Which I guess you could say, well, then why are they showing it? It's just there to be there. It's there to show the just how special she is and how difficult of a time she has had. But I don't know. That's where I start to disagree with you, I guess, in terms of I don't see it nearly as big of a problem as you seem to from our conversations. I know Johnny, you're gonna want to chime in on this because you and Miles almost I think you guys almost like threw hands, honestly, in the chat a few
Eh.
times this week. I'm kidding, obviously, but go ahead, please state your
Yeah, well,
state your
I
remark.
certainly felt like I wanted to throw hands at some point, but
Do you better understand? So I hope that Miles and I talking about it just now, do you better understand? Because I think that was the main problem earlier this week, was that we just could not come to a consensus on what our disagreement was. So like, do you better understand what Miles's point is now that me, Pete, and Miles have kind of tried to
yeah,
highlight it?
I understand more where he's coming from now than I was like a few days ago.
Hmm.
And I do agree that I do agree that it's like it's absurd that like what a 12-year-old girl is capable of like wiping out like half an army. But I think the reason they do it is to make it clear that she is like different from everyone else in a way, both emotionally and physically. She is different,
Yeah.
and that's why she like does the things that we need. Like I know one of your complaints was like how she acts like a soldier, like in situations where like you wouldn't be acting that way. It's the way.
Yeah. So I guess my issue with that, and I can let you go. I just want to clarify my issue on that. Is that the way she speaks is like very formal, like insanely formal, and you know, um, I think they're using that to, and I understand why they do it. They do it to highlight that she hasn't had the socialization that like a normal human has had and stuff, and that she's not robotic, but like militaristic. She has like that formality that comes with the army, and talking to a commanding officer and a superior and all. Um, but like none of the other soldiers are in the show are like she's like unique to everyone, even people in similar positions as her. You know what I mean? It's just like very um different than everyone else, and I think they should have done some of it. That I thought they just drove it home a little. Like when she called the typewriter a weapon, I was just like, you know what a typewriter is, Violet. Come
Well,
on.
here's the thing. How do you know she does?
Be,
Because from the story, that was the first time she learned to talk was in the military. She doesn't
Mhm.
know how anyone else talks.
So
She can I?
yeah, yeah, go.
So she doesn't. Her only experience with other people, for the most part, is in the military, where she's given orders. Like we saw how when she was supposed to write a letter, it looked more like a report. We
Yep.
saw how like she was given food, and she was like, because like and she was saying like how it like fulfills her nutrition or whatever, because that's
Yes,
usually the only point of food. And like the way she talks, that's the way that soldiers are talking. She
it
doesn't see
isn't.
how they act like casually. She only sees like when they're talking to the major, which is in a formal way because he's a superior officer. So she mostly only sees like that kind of action.
So I guess we just disagree on that take. Then I would have to imagine that she sees people in casual situations while being in bases and things like that. We lost Happy. Um, we gained Happy, and that like the Major didn't talk to her like that. The Major tried very hard to humanize her and to teach her, and he had a hard time doing it, and it was hard, especially given the circumstances they were in, where he was literally ordered by a general to only treat her as a weapon, and he sort of ignores that, which is good. But um, again, that's not a huge gripe I have, so let's not spend too long on it. I just thought that was a little overdone, and I completely understand why they did it, because it's supposed to show her disconnect to normal social interaction and how people talk. Like I get it. I just thought that was a little over.
Agreed.
I think that, yeah, again, I think it's a fair point. I liked it myself, but I think that because again, it's just she is this absurd person.
We
that
talked
is
about the
so
smile
absurd.
moment.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and
where
how
she
you
lifts her
loved it,
cheek.
and I thought it was like the
fucking
worst
loved
thing
it.
that's
That
ever
was so-
happened. Yeah,
I thought it was so cute. Like it was just like, oh, that's funny. Like, because again, it's like something that if it happened in real life, like like you'd be like, what the hell is wrong with this person? But because you're watching a fictional show, you could sit there and laugh at it. That was my take on it, at least. I get why people don't like it though. But yeah, so I don't know, Kat, Happy, do you guys have anything you want to throw in about Violet's character arc? Happy, looks like you unmuted, so go ahead, I'll let you take away.
Yeah. Okay. So with Violet, I'm sort of in the middle where I see what Miles is saying. Like a lot of it is really absurd. Like, and I kind of wish we had more backstory for her to find out how she got to be that good. Because I doubt she was born that way. But I do like how she goes from this cold, like consummate professional character to being this caring, compassionate, what is it?
Auto memory
Remind me
doll.
what the auto memory doll. Thank you. Um, who learns what compassion and love are. But having said that, one problem I do have is that I feel like the show has sort of a shonen bubble problem. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so Miles used the Kirito example, so yeah, she's just like
Uh,
overpowered to the
yes.
point of it not mattering.
Well,
Yeah.
no. It's not even the overpowered thing. It's more that I feel like the other characters don't really matter that much. Like with the other dolls, like Iris and Erica. I like Iris kind of had her own episode, like I think it was episode 3 or something. But
Hmm.
after that, they're mostly just kind of forgotten. And
Well, yeah, because
that's
it's fine. Go ahead, sorry.
it's no, it's fine. It's and I wish we'd gotten more of them. Like as much as I like Violet as a character, I feel like the other characters just kind of got squandered. So I don't
Uh,
know.
yeah. So one thing I will say is that in the movie they are relevant. In the side story movie, they are relevant because which of
They
course is
are
just it is well they are part of the movie. They are used a little bit more than they were in the show. I think
okay.
that's a fair criticism. However, the show wouldn't be Violet Evergarden if it wasn't focused entirely on Violet Evergarden as a
True,
character. I would say
true,
so
true.
that's
But
where I would say, that would be my counterpoint. But I get what you're saying because like the side characters are interesting and not using them might have just been the fact that it was only 13 episodes, right? You know, like I'm sure we would have
that
gotten more
could be.
backstory.
But I think of Pat. You've seen Ruby, right?
Yeah, I watch it
Like
every week. Yeah, yeah.
like that show doesn't just focus on the titular Ruby Rose. I feel like the side character. Well, okay. Actually, that's not a fair comparison. That's not a fair comparison because they're not side characters in that show.
Hmm.
So,
Well, yeah, because
but
it's not like they only focus on Ruby; they focus on the entire team and the other teams like Team Stark and all the others. I think that's I do get your point though, Happy, where it's like a certain like you just you wanted more of the side cast being involved, which again I will say in the side story movie they are they do get their times to shine when they are on screen. I know a couple guys in the Discord loved what's her name, God, uh Catellia, whatever the
Oh yeah.
oh, she's
Um,
great. Uh
Catalia.
Yeah, she's
Catalia,
solid.
she's great. Like I don't think the show really had like a terrible character. We'll talk about characters later when we do. Finally, we get to do best boy and best girl again. It's the first time in a while we've been able to do have a show that actually might have like waifus or husbandos. So we'll get to that later. But Kat, do you have anything you want to throw in quick too before we move on to just other stuff?
Yeah, so My opinion on Violet is a little bit more, uh, well, I won't say anyway. Anyway, so Violet is a little bit more of a of kind of like a charity case, in my opinion. Is like she's taken under so many people's wings for no for a reason that they really haven't like that hasn't really been explored. And I do agree with Miles that a lot of her situation is absurd, especially with the major being the one person that Violet just like clings to. It just seems like Violet, in my opinion, and not to say that this is a bad thing, because this is going to sound harsh. She is a walking plot device. Uh, she is literally convenience incarnate. And like the thing is, yeah, oh, she's a child soldier. Oh, she's like really, really tragic. Oh, she's a kudere. Oh, she's a fucking cardboard cutout, and then she slowly becomes a person. She goes from flat Stanley to actually being a 3D thing, and and the thing is, like, it just goes from like extreme trauma to extreme trauma, and I'm not really okay with that. Like the moments where she's having these mental breakdowns, like nearer to like the mid to late episodes, are really, really good. Those are actually good, like, executions of mental breakdowns. And mental breakdowns, if you haven't watched any of our other episodes, are one of my biggest things when it comes to melodrama. uh, the thing is, her mental breakdowns don't have a lasting effect, in my opinion, because they become more along the lines of like, uh, they existed and she's getting better, and she's gotten better, even though that like they're scars that don't really normally heal. Uh, but yeah.
I,
Other than that,
Yeah, Pat, go ahead and rebut.
well, so I guess so you're talking about like her struggles that she does she starts to learn what emotions are and what these feelings that she is feeling are. And you can definitely see that happening during those mental breakdowns or those moments of confusion and frustration that she experiences. And what I would say, like, I think it's like you are right that they leave scars. They don't ever fully heal, but I think part of her healing process is um, going through these breakdowns or having these episodes because she needs to understand. Again, she needs to learn what love is and what emotions are. She needs to experience this kind of thing so that she can understand what other people are feeling when they lose a loved one, or they see death, or they see whatever is happening. She needs to um she needs that to grow out of this, like you said, cardboard cutout of a person that she seems to
Okay.
be. I think that's my that'd be my rebuttal to that.
Yeah, I want to make this is in Cat. I promise this is not me being sassy. I want to make a comparison to Nanbaka real quick.
Oh wow.
I swear to God, I do. I really do. Cat, Cat, the main prisoner in Nanbaka. What's his name?
the main presenter, the main character, you mean?
The main character of the prisoner. The main prisoner in Nanbaka.
Oh, was it Jugo?
Jugo. Okay, so Jugo interacts with the not the warden, but whoever his guard guy is, um of his cell block, and they have this conversation about how like Jugo's literally never been a person, and he needs to like form and be a person. And that was an issue that I had with Nanbaka, and I actually think that translates to what my issue with Violet is, and then that conversation just tipped me off on it. It is that with this sort of stuff, I guess I like it when this is going to sound like when you're watching someone fix themselves, right, and like come back from being broken. It doesn't seem like Violet, like Jugo, was broken. They were just like never formed, and this is them like forming, as opposed to having been broken and then repairing. If that makes sense.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay.
I agree. But yeah, so we started to talk about this a little bit in the like in our discussions of Violet, but I want to address this because this is probably my favorite part of the show. So if anyone follows us, you know I love history and I love dramas and shows written in historical time periods. And one of my favorite time periods to study is World War One. It's what I wrote one of my theses on in college. And the world building in Violet Evergarden essentially builds what Europe would have a clone of what Europe looked like during and then immediately after World War One, both in terms of fashion and technology outside of Violet's arms, but we won't. We'll talk about that another time. Um, but so electricity is just starting to become a thing. Steam powered and motor powered vehicles are starting to populate the streets. I think the world building in this show is one of the biggest strengths that this show has. They the environments that the characters live in and exist in are so well done. There's still the ties to royalty, like we saw with the princess in one of those episodes, while there's also still other classes and everything as well. um I don't know, I thought world building was probably one of the biggest strengths of this show. Does anyone else agree?
Yeah, I do. I'll start off. Let's be positive about the show for a change, because there's a lot of good things to talk about. Um, I loved the world building. I thought that there were like tons of little snippets, just like here and there that you could see that flesh out the world a little bit. Like in the astronomy episode when they're doing the dictation, um, and Leon is like reading and Violet is typing. You hear a lot about like the mythos and like the legends and stuff of the land that they're in, and how comets and celestial bodies were viewed by like the ancient like kings and stuff. And I thought that added like a lot of flavor to the land. Um, even just like um, things like them, like you can like see how the war affected people, like with the air show coming back and stuff. Like people are being allowed these little comforts in life, these entertainments and stuff. Really builds into how the war, um, which I kind of view as like the center piece of all of this, affected people, and how once they've saved the day at the end of the show, that it can come back together again. And it's just like that realistic world building and stuff I thought was great.
Yeah, I think like they showed the battlefield, they showed what royal life was like, they showed what city life was like, they showed what life at the astronomy place was like. They really encapsulated a country at war, and I don't know if it was ever defined as a civil war, but I believe that's what it was meant to kind of be, either a civil war or just a war between like Austria and Hungary, let's say, right? So like very neighboring countries that are ideologically the same, generally speaking.
Well, they
So
show a picture of the map, and it looks like the country that they live in kind of reminds me of Australia. So it kind of I was sort of thinking that it's like a civil war.
It
yeah.
does look like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I never thought about it that way. Again, I say Europe, but what I really mean is just like 1900s Western civilization, I
British
guess.
Empire.
Well,
Well, they have a House of
hey, the
Commons and a
USA
House of
had an
Lords.
empire too. Come on now, give us some credit. We were an empire and colonizing too back then. Yeah, yeah, exactly. There we go. Sorry. So yeah, so Johnny, I know you had something to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think the world building in Violet Evergarden is great because issue I have with a lot of stories is when the world doesn't seem like plausible. It's like there's all these absurd elements. It's like a lot of times there's these absurd elements that make it seem like there's no way a normal human could live in this world. But Violet Evergarden like does a great job. It shows like what normal people go through, and like that, and that's important for a show like Violet Evergarden, where like the whole point is is like a person going around to normal people and helping them out. You have to make the world seem grounded in reality, which I think that's one of the strongest points of Violet Evergarden. And since we're talking about world building, I guess we can do like the animation, the soundtrack too while we're at it. And me personally, like I said before, I think this is the best animated like anime I have ever seen. And I don't know if anyone else is gonna agree. Actually, never mind. I think a lot of people agree with me on that one.
Yeah, it's hard to like define what's like the best ever, right? But like this is like production. Kyoto Animation blows it out of the park.
Water
They are,
physics.
yeah, the water physics. Yeah, that's one thing. That episode was incredible. I think just in general though, like I don't think anyone would disagree that the production quality is there. Um, but yeah, we can again talk more about animation ourselves too, like specific scenes that we remembered when we talk about specific arcs later. But Kat, why don't you go next? What have you got for world building? What was your take on the way Violet did it?
So the world building in Violet is one of the things that I really applaud about the show, because world building in and of itself, even in novels, is not exactly easy. And the fact that it does it in a way that is not like, "Hey, we're world building here,"
Yeah.
like most, like some shonen or a lot of like dramas, like bad dramas, like handshakers. But the thing is, like, the world building inside of Violet Evergarden is more along the lines of it works extremely well with what this show is about. And because it works so well, it doesn't feel the need to shove it in your face. And that is one of the more refreshing things about the world building in the show. So the fact that like the fact that Violet is able to go to different kingdoms, the fact that she's able to to move around. Now, the fact that she's a walking plot device still stands. That can be seen in the Iris episode, but even with the Iris episode, you still get to see like some of the world building from it, and that's very refreshing in my opinion. But the but also, you know, walking plot device, Violet kind of saves the day. Uh, but
Oh, go.
so the thing is like uh the thing is everything about the world building in Violet is very nice. It's very refreshing when it comes to shows like this.
Johnny, you had a quick thing you wanted to add, I believe.
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to mention is how like Kat said, I think it does a great job of the world building because it's mixed in with the story. It's like you're advancing the story while building the world at the same time. It's like like the soldier episode. It's world building, but at the same time it's not like holding off on Violet's story. In that sense, it's kind of like Konosuba, where the events that are happening, like it's a comedy, it's funny, but like the world actually makes some sort of sense, and you like the things that happen like are related to the story. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to say.
Yeah. All right. Happy. What's your take on the world building? I know you in the past have been a critic of shows for not doing so well. So what do you think about this one?
Okay, first of all, when was I a critic? Because I don't remember
Yeah,
Oh
I
that.
no,
don't
I
remember
remember.
it either.
I thought you didn't like the world building in Handshakers specifically. I don't know. Maybe I'm remembering wrong.
Well, I mean, it's Handshakers. It
Yeah, it's
wasn't good.
Handshakers.
It's fair enough. It's not
Maybe with
good. It's not good.
well, what about with
We all
Grimgar
agree it's not
too? I don't
good.
know. Yeah, fair
Maybe it
enough.
was Grimgar. Yeah.
Maybe it was Grimgar then. Yeah.
So I would say, with the world building, I like that we had episodes dedicated to different facets of the world. Like, I feel like one of the weakest episodes was the one with the Princess Charlotte. But now that we talk about it, I'm glad that episode exists because it gives us a glimpse into something that's not part of like the whatever postal service that we usually. Same with like the astronomy episode. Like that's a portion, that's a part of the world that we don't see otherwise. and I like that it's intercut with the overarching. I think kind of like what Johnny said about the overarching story of Violet and what her journey is. So I like that part of it. Um, and I also like that it's while it's clearly a fictional world, it's also grounded in like some semblance of like our world. Like it feels like I think somebody said it was like World War I. It feels
Yeah.
like, and I like that part of it. Um, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think yeah. So the World War One analogy, I guess I'm tooting my own horn here, but I think it's perfect because it is a time in our history as humans, at least, and maybe this is more just for Western culture, but I think humanity in general, it was a huge time of change in the way that the world looked at how they interacted with each other and with the um with the way society globalized afterwards, with just globalization in general, but also just the need to understand you're not just living in your small town anymore. You're living on this entire planet or in this entire kingdom, which I think was made very relevant in Violet. It was shown that the world is evolving around them and people are having to change and be ready to change. And I think they did a really good job with that. But yeah,
Right. And
go ahead.
one quick note about the music. Am I wrong? It's an English composer, isn't it? It's not a Japanese composer.
I don't actually know. Sound director, to me, just looking at their mal quick, the sound director is Yota Tsuruoka. So I
That's
believe he
that. That's not the composer. The composer is named Evan Call.
sounds
Yeah,
like an
they were
American
born in
name.
Lincoln, California. So
There you go.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, got it. And they do a masterful job with the music. I just wanted to say that.
I think I think most of us will touch on it in our final thoughts, but or later on. But yeah, that the music is stunning. I mean, and that goes beyond just the some shows the OP is really good and that's what sticks with you. I think the OST fits the show extremely well. I don't think anyone will disagree with that. But I think the main thing that gets Violet so much attention, at least like from other people and like in the anime community in general, is the story arcs that she goes through. And I think all of us actually during our like pre-show discussion, I think we all had different opinions on what we thought was the best arc or what was our favorite arc. So why similar to best boy and best girl, I think we're just going to go through and talk about what our favorite arc is on and whether that's what you think was the best arc or what one you related to most personally, and just give us a little bit of a why, similar to Best Boy and Best Girl, I guess. Very, very similar idea. So why don't we just start from the top? Miles, what have you got for your best arc?
yeah, absolutely. My favorite episode was the. This was hard for me to choose. I was between two, but ultimately going to go with the Iris episode. And I really connected with Iris as a character. She's a little smug, but ultimately kind-hearted. And I, as someone who was also frustrated with Violet, and her inability to act like a normal human, I really connected to Iris. In my notes for that episode, which I think was episode 4, I just wrote like, "Oh my God, Violet, you suck!" like 20 times when she was, like telling her mom that she didn't want that boy invited and not understanding all of these social cues. And I felt so bad for Iris, who was just like trying to be cool in front of her parents and friends. Um, I also liked, to tie this back into the world building, you got to see like a rural area of the country and like how, they dressed differently. There was a lot of attention to like all of this, and you could tell that like Iris was someone who was trying to stand out and like impress with like her urban city living sort of outfit and everything. And you would like see her step in the mud, and it was a neat detail when she stepped in it and she got all upset like on the way in, and it was like less important to her on the way out because she sort of reconciled herself with who she is a little bit more, and that it's okay to not be the best currently, and and her mission to be a good auto memory doll or be the greatest hero like Deku or whatever.
Yeah.
So um Yeah, so I guess I'll just say Iris for My Hero Academia season 5 or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's yeah, that was my favorite.
Fair enough. I think that's a very fair take. Fun fact: Iris. I found this out earlier today while preparing. Iris is an anime-only character. She was not in the light novel, which is very. I just had no idea. Like that. That's such a surprise to me. I feel like she's especially since she is used in the movie as well. You know, and she is. I guess she is kind of used though as that vessel for the audience to just be sitting there and be like essentially just like bruh, like Violet, come on, like like what is up or what is
She's a
wrong with you?
living bruh moment.
Yeah, she is the embodiment of what we must be, or what the audience is probably supposed to be feeling. I think that'd be the best way to put it. But yeah, so Kat, what about you? What was your favorite arc and why?
So my favorite arc probably has to be the episode where Violet ends up learning that you know uh, the major isn't necessarily isn't confirmed alive, and put it that way. So because I haven't watched it, and the way that some of you guys said that he's not dead, but like he's not alive in this story, it's just kind of like, well, so my thing is the episode where she actually learns that he's dead, basically, is my favorite because it relates, well, not necessarily my favorite, but it relates more to me when I was basically when I was growing up. It was a little bit more about like trying to be something else than everyone else, something that made me less of a quote unquote threat, because I was the only mixed kid in every school that I went to, and I was the only one that wasn't following stereotypes, because I listened to electronic, I listened to, I watched a lot of anime, I did a lot of nerdy things that the a lot of the people that I hung around in like grade school and high school didn't do. So I was kind of the odd man out. And once I actually started like forming my own personality and not just being, oh, I watch anime, that's my personality, like actually becoming a person, uh, and feeling what it is to be like to be ostracized, and feeling what it is to be uh just different in general, along with reconciling with what I have done in the past with like past relationships and things like that. uh it kind of resonated with me, that with that episode, and I think that, and if I remember correctly, I think I cried a lot during that episode because it hit home.
Yeah, and
uh
so you're specifically talking about the episode where she like goes back to the um she goes back to the chapel or the cathedral, right? And she
yeah.
finally confirms uh, that she is, you know, that she does. She just has to accept that he is dead, or well, not that she, which of course she doesn't accept that he's dead, but that her her hopes are dashed, I guess, a little bit that that he is still alive. Um, so yeah, I think that's what that's what I think that's a fair comparison for sure. Johnny, what about you? What have you got for your favorite?
Alright, yeah. So my favorite episode is actually the one before, so episode 7 with the writer for the show. So yeah. So my favorite, obviously, it's kind of a meme here about how I like it when shows have good water animation. So that, so like, it's probably not much of a surprise that that's one of my favorite scenes in the show. But yeah, it's just I feel like it was just the episode where Violet got the most development compared like because like before, while she was learning, she was still essentially the same person. It's just like with different things. And it was after this episode, it's like she realized that there was something wrong with her. She realized that she couldn't she was different from everyone else. and she figured out why. And like the scene where at the end where she started crying because she realized that wow, these people, these same people that have all these feelings and have family members are the ones that I murdered like without any thought. It was, and also I like the story behind the writer. It was like really sad about the daughter and how Violet, like, even though she didn't know it at the time, she was really helping him like get over the fact that his daughter died and become a better person. So yeah, I just think like that's my favorite part of the show.
I think that's completely fair. That's one of those when people talk about the show, there's like a few episodes uh that are talked about specifically. I think you just highlighted one of them, and I believe Pete, if I can guess you're going to talk about the other most famous episode, episode 10, I believe. Is that your favorite
Yeah.
episode? Yeah, so please, if you'd like to talk about it, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So for sure for me, episode 10 was my favorite. It resonated with me really hard. There's one scene in particular where Anne, who is the daughter in the show, she's asking Violet to do all these things that she'd rather have her mom do. Where she had like a ribbon, play house, read a book, and stuff like that. So I was depending on how personal I wanted to get with this one because it really reminded me a year ago I lost my dad, and it was something very similar where it was this slow process of kind of watching him die, and this was the same case. So it really resonated with me, and it was so beautiful because how Anne felt is exactly how I felt during that entire time. And to me, I thought this was the best episode in anime history. Just everything was perfect about it, and I couldn't say more about how great episode 10 was and how good Anne was. Because like, it's hard to like in that situation where you think that she should know what's happening, and you see all these things going on, but in your head you don't want to believe it's happening. And I feel like that's what Anne was feeling in that entire time, where she knew the entire time her mom was not just sick, that she was dying, and she was literally doing all these things to like really hold on to that memory and just try to distract herself during the whole time. So
Yeah,
it was beautiful, and yeah, I absolutely adore episode 10. It was incredible, and I love it.
yeah, I think for the she didn't want to believe what was happening, right? And she couldn't believe it. But I think also, like you described it, it sounded like, of course, it was difficult for you at like in your mid to late 20s to deal with this. Now put yourself in Anne's shoes, who is 10 years old, trying to understand the gravity of the situation that she is in,
Yeah,
and
and she already
it
lost her
captures
dad
that.
too, and so
Yeah,
like I think
it captures it so
she had
well.
like a quote saying like, "When you're gone, I'm going to be alone," and stuff like that. Like it made me like feel for like my mom and like how she feels and stuff like that. And I've cried at anime. Like I I'd like pause the show and excuse myself. Like that was, I've never been hit so emotionally like in my entire life. It's yeah, in terms of like mediums and like anime and music and stuff like that. So that was it was an amazing. I was sad, but I'm really glad I watched what I saw.
Right. Yeah, I feel the same way. So again, the first time I watched this, I'm just gonna go now. I know I will let Happy go first, but since your episode ties so well into my story, I guess, or my favorite arc, I'll go next. I so the first time I watched this, like I said, I binged through pretty much the entire show in one sitting, and I hadn't cried up until this point, like episode 10, when with this beautiful scene, and then the final scene where the daughter is being read, or she's reading all the letters, and she's going through life, and like growing up. That scene got me tearing up a little bit and made me very emotional, but I didn't quite break. I was just like, wow, this show is something else. That was the episode that I knew that this show was like just a masterpiece. It was stunning. But for me, my favorite episode was the episode that followed it up. This was the episode that broke me, and it was the episode with the soldier still on the front lines fighting, who ends up passing away, the childhood sweetheart at home, with his family, his girlfriend, or I don't know if it was officially a fiance or not, but it was implied that they were going to live a happy life together, and that is just it. again, it's not even like I've lost a family member in a war or anything, but that for whatever reason that episode it it just destroyed me. I like at the end when Violet delivers the letter and the family breaks down in tears. It just I I there have been anime like plastic memories, Your Lie in April that like affect you emotionally or and they make you upset, they make you cry because you feel emotionally tied to these characters. I was bawling my eyes out for probably like 20 minutes over characters that I didn't even know the names of. Like I knew who Violet was, and I guess I knew who the name of the soldier was at the time. I don't remember it now, but like the emotions that I was feeling, I couldn't believe how how emotional this show made me feel. And that specific episode, I guess, was my tipping point. Like it was all bubbling up, and then it just exploded everywhere, and it was just oh my god, I don't know it again, maybe that's just the history guy in me that likes and the war aspect of it and showing the the raw emotion and frustration and difficulties that these soldiers who are fighting the war feel, you know, with facing their own mortality and their final messages to their family. What would they say? Like, and it made me think, like, what would I say if I knew I was dying and I was leaving behind my sweetheart or I was leaving behind someone? Like, what the hell would I even say to them? So yeah, Happy, what about you? What was your favorite story? I don't think I actually know which one is your favorite, so I'm curious to hear.
So, for me, I think I teared up during episode 7, and then I like legit shed tears at episode 10. That episode really got to me, and it's not even because like Pete, I was in a similar situation. I just ended up really empathizing with Anne, especially when she starts like yelling at her mother, like, "I already know that you're dying. Like, why can't we do things together?" So I think I'm just gonna piggyback off of I think it was Pete and also you said was it Pat that said episode 10 was their favorite?
Yeah, 10 and 11 are my two favorites, yeah. But
Oh, 10 and 11. Okay. Yeah. Um but yeah, episode 10 really made me feel. I mean, the other episodes did too. I'm not trying to discount those episodes. And I also really like Violet's overarching arc as well. How she goes from being this, this plot device, as Kat calls it, to being this someone who seems more human, you know.
yeah, and I think by the end of it, I really liked the final arc for her with the letter of her. It's supposed to be what the person who's guiding her on this like encouraging her to write this letter to the major and in this the I believe is it a festival or is it just a tradition that they do where they throw the letters to the wind whatever she
I
she is trying to
I think it's a
encourage her
little
to
bit of both.
yeah it's the idea of it right like that's the idea at least sh- the person is trying to encourage her to do so so that she can move on and she can feel comfortable moving on and accept his death and Violet just does the exact opposite which I love that she does that because she essentially writes a letter and says I know you're still alive I will find you like please like I am coming for you I will find you and I think that that is the that is so perfect because if she didn't completely change, she has not fully healed or started to understand her emotions completely, and I think it is so on character for her to be like that. That's at least in my opinion. I think that that final letters blowing in the wind, and you see all these other people writing letters too, and it reminds you that everyone is fighting their own demons and struggling, especially in a post-war society like this like there are things that are going on in everybody's life that is difficult or causing them difficulty um and it's important to address that and acknowledge that as a person yourself but yeah so I think I think everyone's gotten their best arcs in so now we can move on to best boy and best girl it's one of our favorite recurring bits we'll just go down the line state your best girl and boy and why. We'll try to keep it to about 30 seconds. We're doing pretty okay time wise, but we want to keep ourselves moving here. Miles, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. My best girl is Iris. Um, I just like her a lot. I love her design. I think she's cute. I like how she gets frustrated with Violet. I think that's good and realistic. A lot of people baby her, which is also good and realistic, as she, clearly needs some help. But I think it's just good to see someone get frustrated. Um, you know, like I was talking to Pete about it, and it's like, you work really hard to get this job, and then this person who's completely unqualified comes in and gets it, and you're like, how the hell did this happen? Then you find out they're basically related to the manager, and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense now.
Yep.
Um, so it's Iris. I think she's great. I wish we got to see more of her. Best boy. I'm gonna have a very, very controversial hot take opinion here. We're going here. I'm gonna go with Dietfried Via, who is the captain, most known for telling Violet that she's a horrible murder monster. And the reason I do that is because she just like murders his entire crew, apparently, according to that one flashback, and he doesn't throw her overboard. And I think that's really, really empathetic of him, because if someone was on my boat that we took in as a stowaway and then they just killed everyone, I would be like, get the fuck off the boat. Even if they were just following me around begging for orders like Violet was after they murdered my crew. So it's him. Way to show restraint, buddy.
Fair enough. All right. Moving on. Kat, what have you got? That's funny.
There's a lot to unpack with what Miles just said. I'm not even gonna fucking touch that right now. So my best girl is, I'm gonna agree with Miles and say that it's Iris, because Iris is actually a really, really fun character, and it's nice to see a little bit of like dark skin representation. Also, also it's good to see like a little bit of like an emphasis, an implied kind of like native presence in wherever they are. So another thing is Iris is also, everything that Miles said. But my best boy is going to be Leon, because he's just a good boy. Like he's just a
great
really
boy.
good boy. And I realize that the Tumblr in me is coming out, but I am part of the that like kind of Leon Violet shit eventually, once Violet figures herself out. Because right now that ain't it. Like that's not a healthy relationship. But yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, Happy, why don't you go next? We're switching the order up back to normal. So, Happy, what have you got for us?
Yeah. So, I mean, Iris would be a good character if the show actually cared about her.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
sorry.
true.
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay.
She's a side
So-
character, and the show knows it. Sorry, God damn it.
Yeah.
Guys, they're so
Show
Yeah.
would be better if
But-
she wasn't.
Fun. Actually, I'll save that for later. I'll save that for my final thoughts. So I think my best girl would be either Ann or Violet. I know people don't agree with Violet being a good character, but I feel like she just has a lot of gaps that need to be filled in before she starts making sense, if that makes sense. But I still think she's my favorite regardless. And then my best boy, I don't remember his name, but he's the red-haired dude. Does anybody remember that
The-
guy's name?
The guy who runs the printing company, or do you mean like
That him, yes. Him,
Okay.
Hodgins?
exactly. Hodgins, thank you. Hodgins, yeah, he's the best boy.
fair enough. Alrighty. You're not alone in liking Violet, Happy. Don't worry. There are people who like Violet in this call. Johnny, why don't you go?
Yeah, like me. Yeah, Violet is my favorite girl. Like, I was arguing with Miles for this, like, for like a whole hour.
Oh,
And yes,
yeah, it was a long time.
yeah, yeah. She's my favorite girl. I like the characters that actually I like characters that change over time on it. Honestly, like in a good way. and I think that I think like her character development is one of the best I've seen that was one of the best I've seen in anime. Probably not the best, but probably pretty close up there. She actually like I think her character is great. I think Miles is wrong, but hey, it's his opinion, so yeah. And for best boy, I'm with Cat on this one. Leon is the fucking goat. Yeah, he really. It's because like he's in the same situation as Violet. He's also an orphan, and like he also has a lot of similar traits with Violet, like how like he's kind of socially like oppressed or whatever you like to say. Like he doesn't fit in, and like they have a lot in common. So and Leon actually treats her like a normal human because of it. So yeah, I think he's my best boy.
Completely fair. He is a good boy. Very good boy. Pete, what have you got for us?
Yeah, my best girl is Anne from episode 10. Loved her strength, loved her entire character because she portrayed exactly how I felt, and I thought it was a perfect representation of someone going through something like that. And then my best boy is Oscar, who is the dad from episode 7. I loved the whole fact of him changing his entire writing style to essentially honor his daughter and started to write a child's play instead of just like normal like play slash, I don't know if it was like an opera type of thing, but really like that he did that dedication and kind of had like that one dream of his daughter jumping over the lake and seeing Violet attempt to do that really put like a smile on my face. And I really felt like that was like a sort of like a letting go type of moment for him as he's trying to like just get through this whole situation in terms of honoring his daughter. So big fan of Oscar in episode 7. Those are my best boys and best girls.
Fair enough. And as for me, uh, it's a close one. I adore Violet as a character. I think she's great. However, I think for me, best girl is Clara Magnolia, the mother of the daughter in episode 10. I think uh, she understands the role that she has to play with the cards that she has been dealt, and I think she plays them perfectly. She's strong. Uh, she's emotional, but she's also stern. And I think again in episode 10, the letters that she wrote or that Violet helped her write are it's just such a beautiful moment, and I think she truly did the best she could with what she was given in life, with the situation she was dealt. As for best boy, I'm surprised no one has said this guy yet. Maybe again, he just has a better role in the movie. Um, it is God. Where'd he go? He was the character list is so terrible on
Is it the
Mal.
blonde guy?
It's Blue Benedict. Thank you. Yeah, it's the blonde guy, the guy who works with Violet, and again, he has a much more important role in the side story movie. So maybe that's might be why I like him more. But during the show, I remember watching and thinking he was funny. He is kind of like what we said about Iris. He's very similar, where he's like, "What the hell is wrong with Violet? Like, who is this person, and why is she working with me? Why am I training her? Why am I helping her? Whatever." Um, I think she is just or sorry, I think he represents uh what a very fun aspect of the show. I think he's a go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, sorry. This is my favorite detail of the show, and it's such a stupid favorite detail. So whatever. So there's a scene where he sprains his ankle because he likes wearing these heels.
Yes.
And like he gets made fun of by Catalina or whatever her name is. But later, when he's jumping from the train to disarm the bomb, it's because of those heels that he's able to like kick it out. And it has like this really cool action shot on like the heel like breaking the chain. And I thought that was like the most awesome random callback to like an unimportant scene just like ever. It's like just like the plot line of the redemption of the boots. It was great, and
Yeah.
good choice.
They have a callback very similar to that in the movie. I will not reveal what that callback is, so you better go and watch the movie. I think you'll enjoy it. Blue is almost the main character in that movie, along with Violet. I would say, and I think it's really great. Again, I adore this series. I can't ramble enough about how great this is. Um, but yeah, so moving on, I think we're ready to discuss our final thoughts and our scores for this show. So, you know what? We're gonna start with the brutal one, with the probably the lowest score we have. So Miles, why don't you kick us off?
So this was really hard for me. So my fiance and I watch all these shows together. We talked about this one a lot, and we ended up coming up with the same score. For a little bit of a different reasoning. She's a pediatric nurse practitioner, or was for a bit, and didn't like the representation of Violet's like childhood trauma because it's not like scientifically accurate, and that's the wonderful woman I'm marrying, and I appreciate that. But so I need to say I'm going to praise the show, and then we're going to give it a score. The show has my favorite anime soundtrack. The show looks absolutely gorgeous. It's not my favorite animation, but it's definitely very beautiful. The lighting is fantastic. It's very atmospheric. Everything is done in quite good harmony. I think that the supporting cast is very good. I don't know if it's top tier, but it's fantastic. It's good. You know, I mean, it's not maybe 10 out of 10, but it's great. They're all great characters. I haven't exactly been able to get into all of the issues I have, which is fair because this isn't the Miles Bitches podcast. This is the Let's Discuss Violet Evergarden podcast. And I have some issues with the core tenet of the war and how it affects Violet's character and how all of that sort of relates to each other that I touched on briefly, but there's a little bit more to it. Ultimately, this will sound weird. This is like the best 7 out of 10 anime I have ever seen in my entire life, and I think that if I was a different person, if I just didn't have specific hangups that I had, it's probably like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. So I'm not saying to people you're going to find this a 7 out of 10. I think most people are going to watch this and think it's a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. I don't know, maybe an 8 out of 10 if you're a little grumpy. If you were like exactly me and you hate the exact same like tropes and things that I happen to dislike that just happen to apply to Violet, who unfortunately is the main character of this show, it's still it's a good show. I would suggest that everyone watches it. It had, you know, I clearly don't like Violet, and I still very much enjoyed the show. But it's going to be a 7 out of 10 with a chance to be very redeemed by the movie, depending what happens coming up later this year. So,
Okay. Well, I'm gonna server mute Miles for the rest of the show. Moving on, Kat, why don't you start next? What are your final thoughts and score?
Okay, so my final thoughts. Well, we'll start with Violet. I've already said a few times that I think Violet is a walking plot device, and my thoughts for that is because she is, and the main thing for that is like I get that she's the main character. I get that she's supposed to be like outfitted for her job or whatever, but like she doesn't have like she's a child soldier and she doesn't really have much to go off of. Like her only thing is that she can write, and that's it. But like because of that, she is a because of that she is a. I looked at the Discord for a second. Excuse me. Because of that, she is very like she's very outfitted for what she's getting into, and I don't really like that. We'll say that the animation is beautiful. It is, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit not necessarily that's overdone. The animation is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but like there's a lot of scenes that are just there for animation, and I am I can get behind it sometimes, but sometimes it's a little bit overdone. So I'd probably have to get the animation like a 9 out of 10. I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if there weren't like in the first scene where there's not really a reason where the wind just comes up and then like there's leaves going everywhere and it's like that's just like animation gasm moment like.
I'm shocked that it's a
really-
negative for you, though.
Yeah,
It
like,
is.
Why are you annoyed that there's better?
It's like there for like the visuals. It's
is it just the
Because
oversaturation?
it is. Yes.
Yeah, I understand.
it's
I disagree.
overdone.
Yeah, I disagree, but I can see it. It's a lot visually. It's like very produced and all of that. I can see that, Kat. I need to say I very much disagree. I think it's gorgeous, but I do get the point.
Yeah. So now moving on from apparently my hot take. So going forward to the side characters, all of the side characters from every episode were at least somewhat like not necessarily relatable, but somewhat enjoyable. And I really appreciate that there wasn't really an episode where where it just kind of like fell off. Comparing that to a currently airing anime called Kuma Kuma Bear, which I think is turning into a terrible show. Put it that way. And now, then we can go on to just the world building in general. The world building is definitely a 10 out of 10. And like I've already gone over the world building, we don't have to go with that. So, uh, with all of that combined, I will. It's probably going to be an 8 out of 10 for me. That being said, it is a high 8, but it's still an 8. Like it's not going to top some of the other shows that I have at 9, and it's definitely not going to top Land of the Lustrous because I feel that that Foss has more character than Violet, and there are some comparisons to be made between the two, and seeing how these things get broken in Foss versus how these things get fixed in Violet. That is a whole nother story, though.
I like
But
that
yeah,
comparison.
It's a good comparison.
overall, yeah, 8 out of 10.
Okay, fair enough. On to, I believe, the start of the much higher rated reviews. Happy, why don't you go?
Oh, sorry to disappoint you.
Oh,
But okay,
wait,
but seriously, okay. So,
Massively put together, 6 out of 10.
So,
it
okay,
coming? Is
so-
it coming? Is it coming? It's coming, isn't it? Oh boy.
Uh,
Here we go.
So here's what I'm gonna say. It is beautifully animated. It has a phenomenal soundtrack. I think Violet is the high point of the show, and I think the one-shot characters that only show up for like an episode or so, I think they're great. But it's losing points because I think the side characters are all very poorly handled. I wish we had seen more of them, even if they are, side characters, and I get that that's the point. I wish that especially after like the Iris episode, like I think that's part of the reason why I have such a problem with it is because we had the Iris episode, and that was good because it gave us, character development for Iris. But then they all just kind of get forgotten about, and I wish we had gotten something with like Erica, who's like the glasses girl. So with all of that in mind, and I mean like also Catalia and whichever other side character you want to bring up. So with all of that being said, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10. All right. Could have been worse. All right, now we move on to the people with taste on this podcast.
The
Johnny,
cultured host here.
yes.
You're the one that constantly says I have the worst taste. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I know, Johnny. Well, sometimes, even a blind squirrel finds a nuts occasionally, right? Isn't that
There
the
you go.
expression?
That's it,
Something
yep.
like that.
Even a broken clock finds a nut twice a day.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Dempsey. I appreciate it, Dempsey. That's a great callback. That's the. Damn it. Anyways, Johnny, go ahead. Let's
Yeah.
hear it.
So usually when I watch anime, I sit there and like it's a way for me to stop thinking and just enjoy something. But not with Violet Evergarden. I like to say that I can notice when a show has been put in like with the most amount of work and dedication. And I think Violet Evergarden is definitely one of those. The art is absolutely phenomenal. The soundtrack, while I don't think is the best in anime, is definitely very high up there. The OP and ED are both amazing. I loved almost every single character. And yeah, honestly, like if what I'm saying here doesn't already say it, yeah, Violet Evergarden is a 10 out of 10 for me. I just don't have much else to say because I just love the show.
Fair enough. All right, Pete. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, I just want to give like a subtle shout out now to the like character design and the wardrobes that they used in this show because that was absolutely incredible. That the fact that they had to draw Violet. Every frame in her like new getup was pretty crazy because I loved everything about it. Yeah, so this show, I thought the message that it sent was amazing. I loved like how they said like how they showed the cruelty of war and the importance of words and messages and relaying emotions when you can't. And I really resonated with that. There was a few episodes where I was like, that was a masterpiece of an episode. Like episode 5 with the Charlotte, I love that episode. And then episode 7 happened. And I was like, that was an incredible episode. And then I watched episode 10. I'm like, that was even better than 7. Like there were so many episodes where I was like, I was never bored. Even with the slice of life moments where they're just going through the works of the show, I found it incredible. Animation incredible. I think it's like the second best OST behind Made in Abyss. I love the sound, love the animation, love the characters. Even if Violet wasn't the best character, I don't think it took away from the show itself. So that being said, I could probably write like my thesis paper on why I love Violet Evergarden, but to keep it short, this is a 10 out of 10. It's my number 1 anime of all time. I love this show. I love everything that it did. I love how it relayed so many emotions in so many different cases. I love the world building. I love just everything. I love the entire show. 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece.
Let's go, Pete. Welcome to the club. I'm glad so now it's my turn. I've been speaking positively about this show for God knows how long. I never nominated it for Watch Club because you know what? I just didn't know if it would get votes. I didn't trust that it would get votes. And, Pete has always said he talks about it a few times. Like he just doesn't like to watch sad things
I
that
don't.
often. You don't. I don't blame you. I love to, but I get why you don't. But now he is on the train. He is on the hype train of this is the best anime of all time. He says,
Yes, it is.
I love it. I love that he has joined the cult, the following that this anime deserves. I love this show to death. I cannot speak highly enough about it. Like everything everyone has said so far, praising the world building, the costumes, like you mentioned, Pete, just now. That's a great point too that we didn't talk about. I loved Violet. While she may not be perfectly relatable, she's at least I can understand why she is the way she is, and I can excuse some of the problems that she might have as a literal character because it's a fictional story about a child soldier. I don't
Touche.
know.
You got me there. It is.
Yeah, like it is fiction. It is meant to be extraordinary and meant to be unrealistic and well, maybe not unrealistic, but it's excusable, I think, in my eyes. This show, I mean, it's not like I sit here and watch it every other week or anything, but I do think about it almost every other week, and I can't rave highly enough about how incredible this show is. Go watch this. I cannot wait for the sequel movie that is already aired in Japan and has gotten good reviews. I just want it so badly. I've been waiting so patiently, and I deserve this. I deserve this. We all deserve this. This show is such an easy 10 out of 10 for me. It's one of my few 10 out of 10s ever. First time I've given a 10, I think, on Watch Club. Uh, it, this show is so good. Just go watch this show, please. If you haven't already, please go watch it. But yeah. So doing my math, on the fly because I kind of knew what the final 3 scores were going to be. We come out to a total of a 53 out of 60, which averages out to an 8.83
Ooh.
overall rating, which
That's just below ping pong, isn't
that
it?
is to my discretion, or disappointment, it is an 0.03 points below ping pong for our
Stop the
highest rated
count!
show ever.
Stop the
I
count!
was gonna say, here's the funny thing: we have certain people, such as Shonen Bro Tyler, who would have given this show a 10 out of 10, who
Yep.
couldn't make it tonight, and Haz, who is a regular member who didn't make it tonight, that also has the show at a 10 out of 10. So this definitely would have been our highest rated show ever, covered in Watch Club. I don't think we
we're
can
adding
count this
Kayla
more.
to the podcast. Another 7 out of 10. She's
Yeah,
coming out of the wings. The hero appears. The hero appears. The hero appears.
I'm adding some
No,
other
Miles,
people
you
who
already
don't
said
think
to
it's
stop the
10 out of
count.
10.
Yeah, he's made.
I could
2
add people that
fantastic
hate
shows.
anime and give it like a 3. So
Yeah, well,
Well, that is wrong.
They have to watch the show, so like.
That's incorrect.
you have to count all the votes. Every vote must be counted. So therefore, yes, let's get political on this podcast. Isn't that what everyone loves?
They
That's
love
what
it.
people come to this for. But yeah, no. Again, so Violet
A little
ends up
dumb.
with an 8.83. I am sad that it is not our highest rated show. However, I am petitioning Miles already to change his vote to an 8, and someday that will happen, and then we will update, and we will be ahead of Ping Pong. But in the meantime, let's move on to our show for next week. So, Miles, what show are we watching over the next 2 weeks? I'm sure it is of the same production quality as Violet Evergarden. It could
So-
not be anything less.
First, we're going to announce some, because I bothered counting this week, legacy points. Because last week, what a fucking raffle stomp the vote for Violet Evergarden was.
Yes, it was.
So, in third place, with 4 points, that's right, we have 2 shows. We have Grand Blue, and we have Teasing, I don't know, what was it? Teasing
Teasing
Master
Master
Takagi-san.
Takagi-san.
that one. I just have it as teasing in my Excel spreadsheet. Both of those gain a legacy point. Oh, what's this? Second place at 5 points. We have Paprika, earning its 3rd legacy point. Wow. Much wow. Satoshi Kon, this is a masterpiece. All-time legendary director. However, every generation has a movie or a show that defines them. You got Casablanca, Schindler's List, Spirited Away, and then of course you have If Her Flag Breaks, which is what we're going to be watching next time.
Yes.
I
Next
just
time
want-
on Watch Club.
I want everyone to know that I did this to myself. Has put it out there, and I petitioned very hard, winning around, canvassing votes for this show. This show is like a 6.5 on Mal.
Oh my god!
This
Yeah.
is lower rated than. Is it lower rated than Handshakers?
No,
or
it's
pretty
not.
damn close.
No,
It's-
Handshakers
oh,
is
no.
like a
It's like a
5.4.
five.
Oh, is it really
Yeah,
that
it's-
low?
it's a
Okay,
point
yeah,
higher.
Oh, but this
Yeah.
could have been nominated for our
For
worst
sure.
anime
It was,
episode.
yes, it could have been, and yeah. So we're gonna find out. Hastic, my favorite Watch Club member, fuck the rest of you, has this show
That's understandable.
at a 10 out of 10. Pat, I love you. And I think that there are 2 possible scores for this show. I'm either going to give it a 2. It's going to be my first ever 2. It's going to make me shut the fuck up about Shield Hero and start bitching about this show. Or right after I gave Violet Evergarden a 7, I'm gonna give If Her Flag Breaks a 10. Those are the only 2 possibilities. It's the only 2 things that can happen.
Yeah, and Miles will be kicked from his own
Apple War Crimes.
Yeah.
anime club and will be
Alright.
reported to
The Geneva Convention or whatever.
you'll be
Yeah.
reported to the UN.
Like, you've already
and-
violated that. Like, we should just
Yeah,
take him
it's,
away.
Much like Violet, I have violated the Geneva Convention.
She's a
um,
child, so I think she gets like a pass.
It was
She
World War
doesn't get a
One. The
pass.
the Geneva
fighting a
Convention
war.
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Fair.
Her fighting is in itself a violation of the Geneva Convention.
The Telesis Convention as
True.
her continent. So there we go. Moving on, though, that so again that wraps up our discussion of Violet Evergarden and our show that we're watching next week. If Her Flag Breaks, you can watch it on Crunchyroll if you guys want to watch it before we talk about it. But yeah, so let's talk about our nominations for next week. So Miles, why don't you kick us off? What show are you nominating for next week?
One day,
Our next session.
one day, Paprika will get like 6 or 7 votes still, but it'll have happened like 34 times, so it will win. So once again, I am nominating Paprika.
There you go. Makes sense. Kat, what about you? What show do you have? Or movie?
So it's been a while since I've come back. Sorry about that, people who are
No
fans of
worries.
me, which is probably like maybe one. But like I just got a new job and all that shit, so I'm still trying to get acclimated to it. But the show that I would really like to nominate is called 91 Days.
Oh,
I'm not sure if
nice.
I'm not sure if I've nominated it before, but I haven't watched it, and I've heard a lot about it being a lot like Bakano. So I'm nominating 91 Days.
Right
Well,
on.
you just made Happy not vote for it, so.
Yeah, all right. So there we go. Let's move on. Happy, what have you got for us? I'm assuming not Bakano season 2. Season 2 when? Yeah. Go ahead.
Hashire sori yo kaze yo ni
Oh.
tsukimi hara wo
Oh no.
Tokuyu Godfathers.
Tokyo
Oh!
Godfathers? Okay.
What?
don't
Was
love
it
it.
another Satoshi Kon film?
Well,
What?
yeah, 'cause it's December. It's Christmas. That's why
Yes,
I'm
it's
doing
Christmas
it.
time. Thank
Okay.
you, Happy. I was gonna suggest that we do like a Christmas
I thought you were
anime
just going to do
episode.
Fate because of the song.
Well, we
I
can't
did
do Fate
consider.
because it's 24.
Do they
I
sing Jingle
considered.
Bells and Fate?
It's the Potteroo, whatever, beam.
Yeah,
Oh God.
I I considered doing the
Yeah, with Nero.
Cooking Fate spinoff, but then I decided not to.
Oh
'Cause it's
god, that's
Christmas.
supposed to be so good though. Oh god.
Well, you can nominate it, Miles. Like
Yeah, I'll get to it in 36 episodes once Paprika wins.
once Paprika wins. There you go. All right, Johnny. What? Johnny, what have
Alright.
you got?
So if we're trying to break the record for the lowest rated show here, I think I'm gonna break it with this one. Okay, I'm
Scares
probably
me.
exaggerating, but so my nomination for this week is gonna be
Zero.
Chunibyo Love and Delusions.
Oh, boy.
That has a
okay.
high rating. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yep, easily one of the most popular shows.
I think he meant like within our podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Fair enough. I have never seen it. I
It
don't
is-
like
yeah.
Studios, but that is the show to go to for them. So that's a fair. I respect that recommendation or
It
nomination.
seems self-aware. It's only a 7.6. That's not super high for what we nom usually.
Yeah.
I assumed it would be higher. I apologize,
it's not,
Johnny.
It's not that high.
Very popular though.
But
is?
yeah, all right. It is a very famous show. Pete, what have you got? And that's not a bad thing though, Johnny. But yeah, so Pete, what have you got?
Yeah, so I wanted to mix it up this week, and I change my nomination every time we do it. So this time I wanted to go through the list to make sure that we haven't done an ecchi show, and we haven't. I checked Handshakers is not an ecchi, and Bake Monogatari is technically not an ecchi. So I am going to nominate one of the best ecchis, one of the best comedies anime has ever made, and I am nominating Prison School.
Oh, baby, there we go.
I hate you.
That should be fun.
I
I
concur.
I think that'll be a great time if we ended up doing a show on that. But yeah, I'm looking too. This if her flag breaks doesn't count as an ecchi either. Even though apparently it.
I checked, it does not.
Nope, harem romance school comedy. So yeah, here we are. Yeah, there we go. So I guess what day is today? Today is the 30th of November. It is starting to get to be that time of the year where everyone is when hockey is usually back on, when the ponds are freezing over. It's Christmas time. You're getting all those good vibes. The winter is here. My favorite time of the year. And because we don't have a hockey anime yet, please, when will that ever happen? How sick that would be, a
Wha-
hockey anime. Oh my god, I
Pat,
want it.
real quick, it's a callback to our protest episode where I petitioned for a hockey anime. Go back and listen to it.
Yes, no, we did this. Didn't we do this also during our predictions episode
Oh,
for
you're
the
right.
summer? Yeah, give us a fucking hockey anime, eh? I need some hockey in my life
Oi,
again.
mate.
Like, oi, like God, fuck, bro. Anyways,
That's not a knife. What are you guys doing?
Put a shrimp on the Barbie.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been watching too much Letterkenny as well lately, and maybe that's why I can hear the Canadian in my head. But anyways, since we don't have hockey anime, the next best thing, and also a show that's on my watch list, I'm gonna go to the figure skating rink. The people that we usually made fun of in the hockey locker room, and we're gonna watch Yuri on Ice. Or that is my nomination, at least. I want to watch Yuri on Ice and experience what it comes up on my Spotify all the
good.
time. Born to make history, boys.
The
Like,
num-
what are they born to make
The
history
number 2
about?
OP of all time history maker
Yeah.
from Yuri on Ice.
I will
Yes.
say, the only anime that has ever made me cry is Yuri on Ice.
I know, and yeah, so
JJ.
your thing about crying though wasn't an actual crying moment, but fair enough. Wasn't
Well,
it?
I think it was absolutely a crying
Oh,
moment.
it was okay. Then maybe I'll cry to it too. But I thought when you mentioned it last night when we were talking about it, Pete laughed, so that made me think that it
because
wasn't a real
so
moment.
you'll see the character that you'll be like, oh my god, that's so Miles, and then you might jump out of a
JJ.
window. But
Thank
yeah,
goodness there's no windows
it
near
was
me, yeah.
it was like I was so happy and like proud and like relieved for someone that I was brought to tears.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, so Yuri on Ice. That'll be that's my nomination. I'm hoping we can watch it, get in that winter mood. Maybe next week we'll talk about it. Maybe doing a winter or Christmas nomination, since that'll be, I believe our episode will probably be sometime near New Year's
Yeah, a
Eve.
week before Christmas it would be.
Uh, yeah, it would
be
be.
like-
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be the episode that we'd be nominating for, at
Correct.
least. Yeah. So there we go. So yeah, thank you again for joining us for Watch Club. Miles and I appreciate everyone that's joined us to discuss today. And Pete, why don't you take it away and close us
Yeah,
out?
so yeah, thanks again for everybody. We are now affiliated with Books A Million. If you're looking to buy physical copies of manga, light novels, regular books for some reason, use our affiliate link in the comments below.
Hi, Violet Evergarden.
You could buy Violet Evergarden. They have a buy two, get the third free right now. And if you use our link, you help the brand. So consider using that. We're also on Twitter. What do you say, Annie? That's what you say, ANI on Twitter. Links also in the description below. And join our Discord. It's fun. We talk about stuff and we have discussions. So come on.
You want to come tell me why I'm wrong about Violet Evergarden? Do it.
Just at Miles. Just
Please
at
do.
Miles. And yell at him and I will promote you to a mod. So yeah. Yeah.
Is
do
that why I'm a mod? Yeah, there we go. Let's go,
Exactly.
baby.
Well, other than that, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.